This week on the Cy Amundsen show, we got a room full of daddies. We have a full house, if you will. Stamos or no Stamos. That's a new game we're going to be playing on the show. But not to spoil anything, first, I want to talk about Bradshaw and Bryant. Now, they call it fall for a reason, okay? People are tumbling you every which way. It's very dangerous out there. So if you are injured through no fault of your own, there is one person to call. There's one law firm to call. That person is Mike Bryant. That law firm is Bradshaw and Bryant. And what is that number that we would call?
800-770-7008.
God, it sounds like a song. Will you say it one more time? It's beautiful.
800-770-008.
Now that's
I
the
came back
show.
to the show for that. I'd have rather done a podcast about chopping my own dick off.
Cy wrote that segment that we just did. He took pen to paper and wrote it. We went through some revisions. But back to Bradshaw and Bryant, back to Mike Bryant. His team did not have a good day yesterday. Is this a sign of things to come? We will definitively figure that out this week. But MinnesotaPersonalInjury.com is the website that you would go to. I'm sorry for stealing your thunder there, Ethan. Justice for the Injured is their slogan. And the first consultation, how much money?
Zero.
Zero monies. It's free, baby. So Bradshaw and Bryant, phone number one more time in non-singing.
800-770-7008.
You guys got really good at ads while I was gone.
We did. It's tight as hell. What's the website, Tom?
MinnesotaPersonalInjury.com.
MinnesotaPersonalInjury.com. Let's start the show.
All right, you guys, let's listen up. We won a game yesterday. And if we win one today, that's 2 in a row. We win one tomorrow, that's called a winning streak. It has happened before. So let's see some hustle. Let's jack it up a little. I got a feeling things are about to turn around for us.
It is the Cy Amundsen show, everybody. It's sort of a sports podcast, and let's just say we're loaded and we're ready to go. Let's go around the horn, which is an original title that we came up here. We've got a real Hollywood square who's chuckling to himself. Tom Schreier. Tom, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Great. And you know what? Cy's back. Cy, I missed you so much. For these, because we have these one-word answers from Tom. Tom,
What
it's not
is
like
Tom
your first
looking
time
at right now?
I
What is
just got-
Tom looking at? Like, we're all looking at our computer, but Tom does this thing where he answers a question and stares above the computer as if he's got a studio audience around him. What are you looking at, Tom?
I'm just
His
thinking.
servants.
My eyes go up when I think. I don't know. I just got back from Cincinnati. It was like 91 degrees. The Vikings took 12 penalties and didn't look good in their opener, and then they have to go play Arizona. So I'm doing fine. It just was a weird weekend.
He just said the sentence, "My eyes go up when I think," as if his brain was working so hard it sucked his eyeballs upward.
I think he's looking at the human being suspended in a cage above his computer. That's the type of money his family has. Human beings in cage money. Ethan, you are looking blown out and sweet as hell. What's going on with you?
I'm looking like the Vikings defense.
Lost
real quick,
the tag.
Before you, and I can't tell, Ethan does look fine, but before we go on and get into the show, I do want to, so we don't just gloss over something. I have been to Tom's house, and Cage Boy is a really nice person. So I don't want that comment was more about Tom and it was less about Mr. Cage Boy.
That is such a good thing, because sometimes you want to punch up in this business. You don't want to make fun of someone less fortunate than you, and especially someone as nice as Mr. Cage Boy. And I believe he has new ointment on his skin because he's not allowed outside still, correct, Tom?
No, he's never been outside. Wasn't he born in the cage?
He was born in the cage, and oh my God, this is such a crazy. So I do remember they did bring him outside once, and his skin is not used to seeing the light of day intentionally, and intentionally, according to Tom.
Yeah, both his parents. Both the Cage Boy's parents, Cage Mom and Cage Dad, didn't they die in the first Schreier purge?
They did, which is so, again, we're not making fun of him. We're just introducing you to Mr. Cage Boy. So when he was outside, he was burnt obviously immediately by the sun, and because of the cage, he has a crisscross of permanent burnt scars on his body, and it is depressed. So maybe that's why Tom's looking at it. Are you looking at?
Is that why you call him Waffle Boy sometimes? That's really fucked up, Tom. It's very inappropriate.
Jameis Crab Legs Winston torches the Packers for 5 touchdowns and 148 yards on his way to a 38-3 win against the Packers in his Saints. And he has 2 eyes now and his LASIK debut. Tom, I want to start with you. Is this indicative of the Jameis that you expect to see for the rest of the year? Or was this kind of just he had that fresh LASIK glow about him? What do you think?
Right. I don't know if this is indicative of what will happen the rest of this year. I think this was an odd circumstance where the Packers went into week 1 thinking they had it in the bag. This is a game that was played in Jacksonville. New Orleans had been through a lot, both with the hurricane, but also with mismanagement. They had a player retire in the preseason, just had a really weird training camp. So I see it as a situation where it's 5 touchdowns. He played well, but 148 just tells me that, this isn't how he'll play in a closer game or in more normal circumstances. So I think he will be the starter all year. I think he'll be a good player, but I don't think this tells us that he's going to be one of the elite or best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
Ethan.
It worked out as well as it could for Jameis. The Packers defense, or the Saints defense, his own defense, played pretty much as good a game as you possibly can. It was, statistically speaking, Aaron Rodgers' worst start in his entire career. So if you take a guy who's one of maybe the best 5 quarterbacks ever coming off of an MVP season, and your defense holds him to 3 points, intercepts him in the red zone in their own, 20-yard lines to allow you to throw 5 touchdowns while only requiring 148 passing yards. Jameis did what, arguably he wouldn't have been able to do before, where Sean Payton's clearly ingrained in him that hold on to the ball a bit longer and probably use both hands because he's a little hands guy, and also throw the ball away. And both of those things that Jameis is probably going to need to do to be successful for this Saints team, whether that means leading them to an incredible season like you would think on a 38-3 win, or just a very competent post Drew Brees season. I think that you're probably walking the line of expecting Jameis to perform very well and better than a guy who basically received a handout contract to back up Brees and had to beat out a running back for a starting position in the preseason. It will look like that was a joke.
Well, he's a combo player, Ethan. Taysom Hill is a combo. He's the future of football. So yeah. Also, Blake, have you noticed how both Tom and Ethan came in with a very calm, mellow vibe into today's show? They both walked in and said, well, Blake, I don't know. I just don't know. We have a very library vibe on this show, which
I like it.
I could only describe as the opposite of Joe Gill.
Yes.
Resident football.
Ethan and I are in the Super Contest in Las Vegas. And, week 1, we just butt-fucked our money into a river by betting on the Packers and a couple other losers. But I told him Saturday night, I think Jameis is going to be a beast. I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think he had low yards because the Packers played like shit. I think this is an indication of who Jameis is going to be all year long.
I do want to say something too, where we're recording this on Monday afternoon, is news just came out that Taysom Hill, while watching the game, actually was in Washington. And while he saw how well Jameis Winston was doing, I would say a fountain of shit flew out of his ass and covered fans. That's what happened there. That was Taysom Hill, not a busted pipe. Taysom Hill was diarrheaing all over the fans because of how upset he was at permanently losing his job, likely.
I don't even understand that reference. Did something happen with a busted pipe?
Yes. Yeah, there was. Did you see it, Tom, or does no one know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just didn't find it funny.
How did that not lead this show? There was a shit pipe.
There was a shit
in Daniel Snyder's stadium, and we led with Jameis Winston.
Yeah, normally the only busted shit pipe in that stadium is Daniel Snyder, but no, it is actually in his stadium. A pipe broke and just gallons and gallons of shit sewage water was pouring all over Washington football team fans. And it's just one of those things, as if it's not bad having to be a fan of that franchise and sitting in that disgusting stadium watching your team lose. All of a sudden, actual sewage is pouring down upon you.
Dude, and imagine how angry Jerry Jones was knowing he pays thousands of dollars for that experience.
Eric, will you give a busted shit pipe a call just to really make my Sunday night fun?
Lucille, how much is a ticket to a Redskins game? Oh, we don't call them that anymore? Yeah, how much is a ticket to the... I don't know what else to call them. I just need somebody to shit on me immediately.
I'm looking to get that spray. Do we think that the Packers... I mean, this was really bad. And looking at the stills of Aaron Rodgers staring and watching his team absolutely fall apart after the tumultuous offseason that he had, is this what, Tom, no daddy, no, yes, daddy, yes, is this what we can expect from the Packers for the rest of the year?
No daddy, no, and it's just the division. They're just going to have division games that they can win. So I'm a little surprised given that Rodgers is a veteran, but it tells us that like this offseason affected him too. That I think that's the simplest and most direct explanation, that this guy, 2 interceptions, terrible yardage, just wasn't playing very well. And I know that, there's usually these veterans, like, you don't want to play them in the preseason, you don't want to get them hurt. They're the leaders in camp. It's more about these young players or the new players coming in. But I think, he'll get going at some point. And I think they'll just be saved by the fact that the division isn't very good and he probably only need to win 9 or 10 games in order to get in the playoffs.
Ethan, no daddy, no, yes, daddy, yes. Are the Packers still the favorites for the NFC North?
They're still the favorites, but it's a reflection on how terrible the rest of the division is. Are they a favorite to repeat as a Final Four team like they were last year? No. But are they the favorites in the NFC North? Yeah, because they're a team that doesn't have one of the other 3 quarterbacks as their quarterback.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is like the North. The one X factor there is what the Bears would look like with Fields. And if we may just look back and the Bears would be like, they're the dumbest team ever to start Dalton and waste games. And so I think that's the only thing that
Tom,
can
I'd never see you go back on a pinky promise, you rich bastard.
What did I do?
The only reason Dalton's starting is because Matt Nagy's pinky promise.
Oh, yeah.
You're coming at Matt Nagy for essentially holding to his pinky promise.
Justin's telling me we have a call.
Allowing Cage Boy to go out inside.
Ethan, we have a call. Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, hello. This is Keith from Oshkosh calling.
Oh, fuck me. Yeah, Keith. Hi. How have you been? It's been a while.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm coming for Shailene Woodley. This is clearly her fault, and I plan to harm numerous family members of hers as retaliation. Leave Aaron alone. You've clearly wrecked our beloved Green.
Whose fault do you think? So it's not Aaron Rodgers' fault, or who are you blaming this on, Keith?
Shailene Woodley. She's engaged to Mr. Rodgers, and I'd go so far as to say it's probably Miles Teller's fault as well. That's a very ambiguous name.
Now, despite your issues with Miles Teller, you do agree with one thing, one outlook that he has, correct?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into specifics here, but yeah, I'm coming for Miles. I'm coming for his dogs. I'm real angry. I thought Sam Darnold played well this weekend, though, and it just shows you got to give a fellow like that a second shot.
Thank you, Keith. I'm surprised. Normally, he says she's got the hooks into him, but he didn't say hooks or talons or dehumanize that.
She's got her big fucking claws into him.
Never mind. Right. I'm sorry, he got there eventually.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still on the phone. I have to be honest. Y'all haven't figured out how to end the calls on your end. I often spend the entire show here.
It is very frustrating. Well, honestly, you do show more restraint, I guess, now that I think about it, that you are here the entire show and can speak whenever you'd like.
I'm going to show Miles Teller some restraint when I get a hold of him for what he's done to Aaron Rodgers and my Packers. comes back here with some fucking floofy man bun. That's Miles Taylor's influence right there.
Keith, what do you think of vegan people?
No.
I probably shouldn't say on air or I'll lose my job.
What is your job, by the way?
Well, I'm self-employed, to be honest with you. I'm between jobs right now, but
Sure.
I prefer not to hurt my consequence. I would guess put consequences on my potential future jobs because I'm in line to apply for several low-level jobs at a factory here. And you know what? I don't want to get into it. It's going to make me sad. Just summarize. I might kill Shailene Woodley. Not kill. I take that back. I might kidnap. Nope. I take that back. I just think if you have to pick whose fault it is, it's the Woodley families.
I understand. That was Keith. I have a feeling that's not going to be the last time we hear from him, since we cannot figure out for the life of us how to hang up on that guy. How as impressive as the Saints were, what do you like? Are they a number one offense with Michael Thomas, or are they a number one offense anyway? Ethan, like, what is the ceiling on this offense?
Well, yeah, who cares if they're number one or not? The question is, with what you saw, is it like? I mean, he did that with fucking no names.
Mm-hmm.
A guy named Adam Troutman at tight end. I mean, when Michael Thomas, when old slant buddy comes back, I mean, I don't know. I think they're just going to fuck everybody. I think they're going to be – I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl, but I think we'll be sitting here at the end of the season if Michael Thomas wants to play going, wow, this is a team that is in the running for everything. Maybe that's being dramatic.
I think it's being a little bit dramatic. I'd like to see Winston do this
back to the show
twice in order for me to think that they're, even some, I don't even know that if you hold, my feet to the fire, maybe I think they have a chance at that, the third wild card spot that they've added, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself on this offense, given how much time he had to throw. Obviously they have Kamara is amazing, but I'm going to need to see a repeat on this of Jameis and these non-Michael Thomas receivers before I'm willing to say that this is even a top 3 offense in the NFC. So definitely have to see it a second time because of what we didn't need to see out of Jameis, which was not really under pressure, under duress, not at all behind in this game, which, by the way, that's arguably when quarterbacks make the most mistakes, when they're trying to come back from behind, especially like a guy like Jameis who likes to air it out. You'd like to think that Peyton will have him under wraps and be able to control him a little bit better from a play calling standpoint. But until I see, under pressure coming from behind Jameis Winston, I'm not going to think that this is an elite offense while Michael Thomas is still out.
My wife's got me under wraps. Means I always got to wear rubbers, which I hate. I hate the rubbers. I know I'm not supposed to be here anymore, but if I was the Saints, I would start Taysom Hill. I would. I think Taysom would have had 6-7 touchdowns yesterday. So I'll just leave you with that. Also, I hate condoms. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. I think the funny thing with the Saints is they'd probably be the best team in the NFC North, probably be the best team in the NFC East, but they're stuck behind Tampa Bay, which is still the best team in their division and the defending champs. And I don't know, my curiosity is like where they'd rank in the West. Like, are there 4 West teams that are better than 3? And, you're talking top offenses, like the Rams would have to be in there. I think the Niners will look pretty good depending on what Jimmy G can give them, but they're certainly well coached. Russ looked good in the first game. So I think that's where they kind of get caught, is like their path to the playoffs should be pretty secure. It's what happens once they get there and actually have to play, teams from the West.
Speaking of people who hate condoms, Cliff Kingsbury's Cardinals thrashed Tanny and the Tits on the way to a 38 to 13 blowout win. My document cut out after the 1, and I'm like, 38-1. How the hell did that happen? But let me go with actually, Ethan, let me ask you this. Who is the chode of the game this week? That's another, and that's sponsored by Bradshaw and Bryant. The chode of the game, Kyler Murray versus Ryan Tannehill and the Titans.
Taylor Lewin was chode of the game.
Yeah, Taylor Lewin.
Thank you.
Yeah,
huge chode. Dude, he did the classic, I don't know. He's a loser, man. Who Chandler Jones, who, by the way, just another, that's an example of, so he's the linebacker that had 5 sacks for the Cardinals, right? And he was one of the, so what Bill Belichick loves to do when he has those elite defensive rookie players, he oftentimes won't re-sign them because they get too big of a money contract, right? And it has worked out for the Pats in the past. But Chandler Jones is one guy where that did not work out for at all, because he's been everything to the Cardinals defense the last 2 or 3 years that he's been there. Even with, American hero JJ Watt now on the Cardinals, and who made a very impressive goal line stand play. Chandler Jones is the best player on that team by a long shot, who got 5 sacks, primarily on Taylor Lewin, who has his own podcast and did the embarrassing thing where you send out a tweet thanking Chandler Jones for exposing you and realizing what you have to work on to get better. Buddy, no one needed to hear you say that. No one was thinking, oh, I wonder if he's owning this or not. You look like a loser. I don't want to ever listen to your podcast. So one less listener. And he was.
That's actually a review
wins your
on this
award,
podcast.
Blake.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also, let me ask the group this: who is going to have a bigger jump this year? Is it a year 3 jump for Kyler Murray, or is it Cliff Kingsbury actually getting respect as an NFL coach? Because he coached a pretty good game yesterday. Tom, what do you think?
I think it's more likely it's Murray with the weapons around him and just
Right.
the natural athleticism he has. And, honestly, for Kingsbury, they had to do something like this, because I think the question with Tennessee is this a really good team in a bad division? Or is this just a team that'll kind of win their division by default? And I think there was a lot of belief, especially after 2 years ago when that defense was good, when they could run the ball, control the clock, that they kind of had their own formula to win. And I just, for the Cardinals, who play in a really tough division where I think there's a lot of doubts about the coach, personally, I kind of wondered if Kyler Murray was really good, if he just kind of had guys like Hopkins around him who made him look better. I just think for them, this is huge, because Tennessee is a team that's meant to kind of screw with a team like this, a high-flying offense, a talented quarterback, literally by keeping the ball out of their hands and confusing him on defense. And, certainly the Cardinals passed this test in week 1 with flying colors.
By the way, if I had to bet, I would definitely say that caller Keith is related to probably either first or sixth cousins with a guy named Cliff, spelling it with a K, if I had to guess. Ethan, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would say there's actually a decent chance that answer is gonna be Cliff Kingsbury. This is the Titans are maybe the worst defense in the entire league. So it's not entirely surprising. You would have liked to think their offense would have performed a bit better to make it a close game. But if this is a competent offensive, if they have a great record and make the playoffs in that division, and they allow Kyler Murray to be successful on a reasonable level, then I think it is going to fall mostly on Cliff Kingsbury, especially the one with the most questions. But if Kyler Murray does what he did today, where he has those 2 plays again, that touchdown throw where he was running maybe it looks like he was doing the cone drill on the, where he had the agility burst to the right about 15 miles an hour in 2 seconds. And then he threw that ball at the back of the end zone. DeAndre Hopkins was insane. And then he had the actual Madden play where he runs all the way out to the right. He jukes 3 guys, runs all the way to the left side of the field, up, back, and then gets a receiver who makes a 4th move to complete that first down. If he plays like that, then yes, it's all going to be on Kyler Murray. But if Cliff can get this team to have, in the playoffs, and Kyler Murray has a good season, but isn't, insane like that, which I think part of the reason may have been how bad the Titans defense was. And then I do think it's a huge win for Cliff Kingsbury, because if he gets this team with a year 3 quarterback after how decent they were last week to the playoffs, that might secure him the extension and give him an extra, 4 or 5 years in the league as a head coach that Murray was already going to get with his play anyway.
Well said.
Is there a simple explanation for what happened in Tennessee? I thought that was their identity. It was Vrabel, a defensive coach, a defensive player.
They haven't been a good defensive team for a while. And I think, they're just so bad over there. And I think the simple explanation is, Ethan and I talked about this before putting our super contest picks in. There might be a chance people have been too hard on Cliff Kingsbury. You know, he's funny to make fun of, but they've gotten better each year, and he started from absolute dog shit. And now look at who they all added this offseason. I mean, it's fucking bananas who they have on their offense. So there might be a world where, I'm not saying Cliff Kingsbury is going to be the best coach in the league, but there might be a world where he is a very good offensive football coach. And if you play a bottom of the league defense, you can put up a whole ton of points. So I think next week when they play the Vikings, if you see him put up 40 points on the Vikings, I think then you go, oh boy. But probably a big part of this is everybody likes to make fun of Cliff, and he's probably better than people think he is.
Moving on to Rams and Bears, Matt Stafford, this was probably this like kind of started the offseason, was the trade, that massive trade where
that's actually, by the way, I don't mean to break in, but that is the reason that Joe isn't able to be here, because he's working for he started a website called Rams and Bears. And and so, you know, we were really excited about it. We wish him the best of luck with Rams and Bears, but I just wanted to give the audience an update on Joe's whereabouts.
Of course. And then just to tag that, like, it is, and I know we give Joe a lot of shit on this podcast, but Rams and Bears, which is the name of his company, does have a media division where they do video shoots. And for the type of videos that a company like Rams and Bears produces, they had to reinforce the walls of those rooms and the floor. The beds they're more like steamrollers than beds, just things that the Rams and Bears would absolutely destroy with the torque and the sweat and just the absolute just violence that goes on during those sorts of videos. So Joe, congratulations on Rams and Bears. But now we're going to talk about the football element of it. Matt Stafford, the probably I think in terms of new faces and new places, which is a trademark of the Cy Amundsen show, he was the one I was most excited to see, because the Rams, it's hard to remember that the Rams made a Super Bowl with Jared Goff as their goddamn quarterback. And now they have a guy who's been, you know, toiling in relative obscurity in that fucking shithole in Michigan. And now he finally gets to go to the Rams, and he absolutely lit it up yesterday, Tom.
Yeah, I think there's some question of like why you're trading that much for a player's 32. He should be exiting his prime. And just, I think there were a lot. I heard people saying like, look, Detroit's a terrible situation, but when they had winning teams, when they went to the playoffs, he didn't show up. And I think this is just for Matt Stafford. He's going, look, if some other team.
How many times did the Lions go to the playoffs?
I think
like
they
were 3 times.
3 times. Yeah.
Three times in his career.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he was good in any of those games.
No, and by the way, just real quick, Matt Patricia is going to be in a lot of those Rams and Bears videos that Joe is shooting. So let me just say that. Good get for Joe. Yeah.
He's their lead talent, right?
Yeah, lead Ram and lead Bear. He's a jack of both trades.
I think for him to start out with this touchdown throw, for him to torch this defense, and again, supposedly the Bears defense was supposed to be good, or at least when they had a winning season, their defense was good. But I think he's making a statement that it was situational, that he still got a lot of football left in him. And I think for McVay, you just saw kind of how held back he was with the young quarterback who just was not understanding his offense. So I think this is really exciting for anyone who's just kind of even a neutral, seeing McVay with a competent quarterback and what that offense can look like.
And McVay said it too during an interview afterwards, saying that like, oh, like I can finally like open up my offense, or the offense isn't limited anymore. I think that's what he said, which is clearly a direct shot.
It finally seemed like everything didn't have to go right for them to score. Like I think Jared Goff is a little better than people are giving him credit for, but I think the situation they were in is like things primarily had to go right to get down the field. With Matt Stafford, you can have some things go wrong. You can have a couple bad plays, and then he can just turn and fucking huck a dime all the way down the field for a touchdown. So, and you can just see it in Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford looks like, have you ever rescued a dog?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Matt Stafford looks like a rescue dog who's finally convinced he's going to get to stay at the house he's in. He's like, he walked out on that field like there's going to be food every day. Like he looks so happy to be in his situation.
Oh shit, we have another call. Yeah, hello. Oh God, it's me, John Green.
Hi. Hey, John.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling it. I'm not quite sure. You know, we had you scheduled later in the show for the
I'm free
Raiders
now.
segment. Okay. Well,
So, I heard about. I just want a quick plug before my segment later, and I have a rescue dog factory. What we're doing is it's basically like an escape room, but for dogs. So we put dogs in trouble, and then you can come in and rescue them from hairy situations. And say the dog's a little, well, I won't go into details because it's going to bum everybody out. But just so you know, you can come, or dogs, they will be in trouble and you can rescue them. All right, that's my plug.
okay.
And, and Joe Gill's working on that too.
And John,
yeah.
Would you right now, would you like to dive into your game this Monday, or do you want to come back later? I say we just get it out of the way.
Let's do it right now.
I'll kind of honestly sounds like you're doing with those dogs.
Yeah, I'll shift it around. What do you want to ask me on the game?
So,
go Raiders.
Season starts tonight against the Ravens, right?
Dark bird, evil bird. Can I tell you something? My ex-wife was a bit of a raven in that she used to pick up jewelry anywhere she'd see it. She'd just pick it up, carry it away, put it in her dirty nest. Anyway, we don't talk.
Are you concerned about the threat that Lamar Jackson poses? As you know, I mean, he's got so many tools in his proverbial quarterback tool belt, and that's a tough challenge right out the gate. Are you concerned about it at all?
He reminds me a lot of our own quarterback, David Chase, and he truly is a double threat. And we've had David running scout team playing offense as wearing a Lamar Jackson jersey. So we've been all prepared for it. We put him on what are they called? Those fucking weirdos are on them. They stand up, zip around, two wheels, and what are they called? Segway. We put David Chase on a Segway, zipping around with a Lamar Jackson jersey on, and throwing the ball around. And well, we're fucked.
Great. And you know, you released another one of your early
sex tapes. What?
Nope, John. You released going into the season another third-round draft pick that never saw the field, and people are pretty upset about it, and a lot of people are trying to decide where to send the blame. You or former TV personality turned general manager Mike Mayock, which I know you like to have fun with that last name, and I would prefer you not do it on our program.
As long as you're asking permission, Ock. May I? All right. By the way, I thought I would never my upcoming book about going through puberty is called See the Field. And there was a big time in my life. I didn't get pubic hair until I was 28 years old, and I hated it. I hated every single one of them. And that is the name of the book. It's called See the Field. And it's about my well, you get it. You understand. It's a metaphor. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. What's Mikey saying?
So just as you enter into this pivotal year, and then we'll let you go here, John, where do you assess, because let's be real, the Raiders aren't a perfect team. Where, when somebody tries to throw blame the way of either you or Mr. Mayock, where do you think that blame should go? Are you ready to shoulder it, or do you want to share it with Mike, or do you think Mike's more responsible? And I know that's a tough question to answer, but I'd love to hear what you think.
I'm going to say a phrase that I said to my son after my first divorce. This is what I'd say to Mike, and this is all your fault. I had nothing to do with this. You're the reason why this is a disaster, professionally and personally, and I hope I never see her again. Now, that is what I would say to Mike. I just coach the players. I don't pick them, all right? So, Mikey, put on your thinking cap and draft a good third rounder for one, so I don't have to fucking release them.
Great. We appreciate it, John. Thank you so much for stopping by. As always, John's appearance is brought to you by Fleet Farm and fleetfarm.com. Get all your boots and other stupid hick shit at Fleet Farm. That's fleetfarm.com. Thank you for joining us, John. Blake, I'm going to hand the show back over to you to keep things going here. It's
Yeah,
great,
of
by the way.
course.
Can we just talk about how great it is that he signed up to do another season with us? We really appreciate it.
It's unbelievable. I think it is just a testament to us in that we do let him go. You know what I mean? Like it's more of a conversation, I think, than a straight interview. It seems like with him, and it's not really up to us.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to wrap out this LA Rams Chicago Bears segment. So I'm sorry, Ethan, have you I just blacked out for the past 3 minutes. Do you? And by the way, I thought the Rams, even with Goff, could have been they're a Super Bowl contender at various.
They are. That's the thing. Everybody's like, does Matthew Stafford make? Bro,
they
were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They were in the playoffs and fucking awesome last year with, I can't even remember who was playing quarterback in that playoff game, and they still competed. So he doesn't make them a Super Bowl contender. It's like when Favre came to the Vikings. I think that's what you're going to see with the Rams this year. All the pieces are in place, and then you have a guy with all the tools come in and just take them to they were before the season. They will be until, that opening night performance by the Bucs swayed me a little bit, but they are my Super Bowl pick for the NFC. The Rams are, and it wasn't even close for me preseason.
Yep, they have the two best receivers in the game in terms of yards after the catch, and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. A lot of that has to do with Sean McVay's play calling and what he schemes up. And then
I hate
also
to jump
Cooper
in on
Kupp.
y'all here. It's Keith.
brother.
I'm still on the line.
For sure.
I love Cooper Kupp. I think if I'm ranking wide receivers in the NFL right now, it's him 1, Thielen 2, Taysom Hill 3.
It's a receiver.
Did Danny Amendola sign anywhere?
He cut a touchdown this week, buddy.
Amendola 4.
Texans.
Robert Tonyan might be a tight end, but he plays more as a receiver. So Tonyan 5.
Wait, hold on.
Gronk 6.
We have another call. It's Barbella. She says she's Keith's wife is calling in. Hey, Keith, is that you? Keith, where have you been? I have been making canned chunks all day, and you're not here to eat them. Why are you running late again?
Listen here, woman. You know what I do with my Mondays, and if you're going to make me act the way I need to act on this podcast in front of some of my best friends, to be honest with you, and a nation full of tens of people, you go home and you do what you're supposed to do at home, and I'll be there when I'm there. And by that, I mean upstairs. I'm in the basement. I'm on the phone.
You're in the basement where you belong. I'm not going to whack you off with my feet until you come upstairs and help me clean the goddamn oven, because you are an ungrateful little fuck who can't hold a goddamn job down. You say you're in between jobs. In between what? Not having a job and not having another fucking job? Support me, you little bitch.
Fellas, I'm going to have to go. There's a situation at my house right now that I will have to keep you updated on.
It's fucking right.
Well, I mean, needless to say, something has come up with my work situation, and so, I will
better go to work.
I don't know why she's still on the line, Justin.
I can't. I think it's been well established that they can't hang up the phone.
Somebody needs to learn how to hang up the phones here at the Cy Almondson Show. Let me tell you, before I go here, Adam Troutman shows a lot of potential as a tight end for the New Orleans Saints, and I got to go handle this in a very appropriate way. I promise everybody listening.
Thank you, boys. Yeah, that is. I didn't think we were going to have a redneck couples quarrel on the show today, but I am so happy.
Can Justin please get a hold of the phone lines? I mean, jeepers fucking creepers.
It's unbelievable. It's getting worse and worse.
Show. Every week it gets worse.
This is terrible. We've been talking a lot about the Rams offense. What did you think? Or I think with the with Stafford, right? Or maybe we haven't.
No, that was we really haven't been getting to the offense much.
Let's talk about it more. Ethan, what were you gonna say about the wide receivers, huh? You were talking about yards after catch or some shit.
Oh yeah. So no, they have those receivers are a much better in an offense with Matthew Stafford than they were with Jared Goff. And I don't know. Do you know this,
Mm.
Blake? But did you know that Sean McVay and Matt Stafford both have photographic memories?
Oh, God.
Do they? That's
Because
fascinating.
I don't know if you know this, but then you probably didn't watch the game every 30 seconds being called by
Huh.
Chris Collinsworth, because holy shit, he will never let you forget that.
That's
But
interesting.
I don't think that Matt, it's like, oh, Matt Stafford finally has help. He's on look at how he is going to be in this offense. These are just the types of numbers that Stafford's been putting up basically his entire career in Detroit. He got to have Calvin Johnson for the first 8 years of his career. And then he's had between Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, Kenny Galladay. He's had a skill on his offense in Detroit. It's just, it wasn't married with a photographic genius in Sean McVay, but most importantly, what might be the best defense in the league. At the very least, they probably have the best corner in Jalen Ramsey, and they definitely have the best defensive player in football in Aaron Donald, which we saw clear as day in this game.
They have
although
one of the
there is no
best
competency
rushers
with
of
the
the
Bears. But it's not going to take much for Matt Stafford as long as he's able to play mistake-free football, or as mistake-free as he'll need to be with this offense. He has the arm and he can see the field and move around on play action enough, and is mobile enough that as long as that they're going to be in every game, and there's no way that Matt Stafford's not going to put up numbers like this consistently. His over-under on touchdowns for the year is 29.5. 17 games was outrageous. Obviously, I slapped the max bet on that, and I felt really good about yesterday. But it's only a team that's going to get more comfortable and be better together, because I do think their receivers are amazing. And Matt Stafford, obviously, as a veteran now with a team that mid-career change, you feel energized, right? For him to get out of Detroit and have the defense that he has behind him, knowing that, if he takes a deep shot downfield and you have a deep, interception where that's, not usually that big of a deal, the sometimes pseudo punts, it'll just allow him to be much more comfortable in this offense and with this team. And so, as I mentioned about the kind of Brett Favre comparison, I do feel that's exactly what we're getting here with a whole team that was complete, that has had success, but was just missing some sort of competent play out of the quarterback position, because Goff was just the turnover machine, even if he was able to get kind of between the 20s yards. Stafford's a guy that he'll make those deep touchdown throws, and then you feel confident that he's going to control the ball in the red zone.
Guys, I'm so sorry. We have another call. Hi, this is Barb from Wisconsin. I'm just calling to say my husband Keith's a limp dick piece of shit who can't clean an oven right. I'll take your answers while off the call. Thank you. All right, that was fucking weird. Again, I can't believe this keeps happening.
We're not gonna. Justin, please stop letting these people through.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Tom, given
I bet Keith's dick is fine.
I bet it's more than fun. I bet it's a perfectly great. I bet it's great.
I bet
it's great. I bet there aren't any complaints.
I bet Keith's dick wears a Carhartt jacket.
And one of those orange beanies. That's the protection he wears. Tom, given that loss and Andy Dalton's play, like when will we see Justin Fields? Is it 3 games? Is it 5? Like, when do we see him?
Yeah, I think it's week 3. I think he's going to give Dalton a start in Cincinnati, where he used to play, which should be a winnable game. And I think after that, when they're going to play Cleveland, which, Cleveland ended up blowing that lead and losing that game to the Chiefs, but they look like a really good team this year. I think you have to put your best quarterback out there. I think a change is going to be due. And I think it'll happen then. I understand that he kind of made this promise or whatever to Dalton. Then I understand Dalton's established starter who played well in relief for the Dallas Cowboys last year, but they really need to put their best foot forward. And I think that's putting Justin Fields on the field.
Moving on to Chiefs Browns. This was a really exciting game. And like, Ethan, I want to ask you, so was this victory or was this performance by the Browns, did that solidify them as being a team you can use in the same sentence as a contender, along with the Chiefs and the other and the Bills and the other teams at the top of the AFC?
I don't think it's an overreaction to say yes. The Chiefs are the team that they lost to in the postseason last year. Many of your, pick your NFL.com, ESPN.com guy who does rankings on overall talent on a team, and everyone's going to have the Browns in the top 5. Those 2 running backs are amazing. Myles Garrett is special, especially when he doesn't have to punch someone else in the head with his own helmet. And I think that we saw it out of this game that Baker Mayfield, I think he's vaulted himself into probably better than competent in his abilities. He was actually fairly accurate on a lot of his throws towards the sidelines, which are the most difficult throws and that he's had the most struggle with. We still have this weird Ewing theory with Odell Beckham Jr. on that team, but it was two just terrible, the fumble and then the muff, but like those are just two dumb mistakes where we're walking away with a Browns 14-point performance and 14-point win. So I do think that we're in for a season where the Browns are probably going to win 10 or 11 games, and they're going to be okay. So I guess, are they in the same? The Chiefs are a stratosphere of their own to me. So no, I guess to that point. But yes, I think they're in the conversation with maybe closer to the Bills and the Steelers and those types of teams. But are they the Chiefs? No, because no one is. But that next level below in the AFC, I think that we got to see a lot of that out of this game. And I won't be surprised if they run off a bunch of wins this year. And
they don't have to be. That's the thing about football. You don't have to be in their stratosphere. You just have to be next to it. An injury before a game, like what happened in the Super Bowl next year, or somebody having a bad afternoon, to knock off somebody like the Chiefs, you just have to be in the stratosphere next to them. And I think that's, if they were being honest, that's what the Bills, the Browns, and the Ravens are all kind of aiming for, is to be close enough to have a realistic shot in one game, right? That's what you have to hope for. And the Browns, I mean, Viking fans aren't going to like this, but they feel like the Miracle Vikings, but maybe souped up a little bit. They have a dominant defensive line because it's not just Myles Garrett, it's also Jadeveon Clowney. They have a really good defense. They love to run the ball because of Stefanski. They have two stud-ass wide receivers like that Vikings team did. And Baker Mayfield is like the best version of Case Keenum you could ever create. Like, Baker basically proved he's going to be a Super Bowl version of Alex Smith. I think he's going to be the best Alex Smith that we've seen since Alex Smith. I think Ethan hit it right. He's better than competent. He's never going to be elite, but this team has all the makings to make a run and possibly knock someone off when they need to.
And to your point about, the Baker Mayfield comparison to our one-time boy in Minnesota, the Bears or the Browns have basically invested in everything that isn't their offensive line. That was the story on Baker's rookie year. And for all of his excuses was that he had no time when the offensive line was horrible, and they still weren't that good last year. And I think they signed one new guy. So their offensive line still isn't great, which is why he was under a bit of pressure. But Baker is the type of player with his mobility, his outside the pocket throwing, that if he improves that accuracy, which we saw out of Josh Allen last year, where he was a guy that can use his legs to get outside the pocket and he has the rocket arm, but he was just so terribly inaccurate on those throws. And if you're investing all that money kind of in those running backs, the receivers, the defense primarily, where you kind of let the offensive line skid a little bit, Baker is the type of guy where if he has improved those outside the pocket accuracy throws like Josh Allen did last year, you could see a similar type of leap, probably not to the kind of MVP status that Allen was in last year. I still don't really trust Baker that much. But if you can get that competent play of him where he's able to avoid those sacks and make up for the lack of money you spent on the offensive line to improve the rest of the team, it looked like, at least in that game, that he's able to do that much better than the previous 2 years.
Tom, any go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say my thought here. We're going to treat Baker as a better player than Goff, but we just went through this whole thing about like how you could unlock McVay by having a better quarterback and like what a good situation looks like when you upgrade there. There's not many teams that can pull off a trade like that. We just don't see that in the NFL. And I don't want to compare Stefanski and McVay, but I think Stefanski is a really smart coach. I think there's a reason why the Browns are finally winning now. And I think all that experience he had in Minnesota coming up through the ranks, literally the bottom of the organization coming up, he just has seen a lot of different coaches and offenses and kind of what works. Are you guys in the camp that they're kind of stuck with Baker, they're going to end up paying for him? Or if you're them, are you trying to make something happen? I don't know what the what the alternative is, and it's probably something a lot less than Stafford. It's probably someone who can kind of tread water and doesn't make the mistakes Baker does. But do you think he's going to be the guy all along, and they just need to upgrade the O-line? Or if you're them, do you want to avoid committing
They
any
have
money?
a window. They have a window.
They're going to
won't get rid
commit
of
to
a
him
quarterback.
100% without a doubt. If this season's not a disaster,
wouldn't.
Baker's getting $40 million a year.
No, I
Lock it
wouldn't.
in.
I think it's a horrible mistake, but that's just, it's not how GMs and job security work. Like you have a window, you have to commit to the dude. You can't walk away from a guy and sign somebody for less money. The risk in that, in terms of your job stability, is just too high. No one will ever do it.
Speaking of terrible mistakes, that is the end of the podcast for this week. Let's do plugs and go around, starting with you, Tom. What's happening on zonecoverage.com?
Yeah, I was out in Cincinnati for that wacky game, and it's a game that the Vikings should have won.
Is that the word we're using?
I mean, I think wacky is 12 penalties. All
Tom,
5 offense.
Was there a bunch of tomfoolery there? Was it a real schmackadoo?
Yeah.
Were
giggles had by all? What the fuck are you talking about?
I was giggling.
Wacky.
There were some things to laugh at. There's between the fans obviously will focus on the replays and all that stuff, but between Breland getting beat and the offensive line struggling and Cousins overthrowing Justin Jefferson, it's a game they should have won. They needed to win given their opponents in the next 3 weeks. Did not win. And I wrote about how they could have squeezed out the victory. And I think they would have had a false sense of success. And in some ways, this kind of creates this reality of they weren't ready. And there's a lot of improving they need to do if they're going to have a chance against Arizona next week.
That is such a funny football fan take of like, if we had won this game, we shouldn't even feel good about that. And it's like, well, it's just no matter what, you guys can't be happy. I relate to that so much. Ethan or Cy, I'm sorry, you go first.
Well, before Ethan's plug, I'd just like to plug. I saw this great documentary on I think it was maybe Netflix.
Okay.
I'll double check. We'll put it in the description of the show. It was about this wacky little volcano that destroyed the city of Pompeii.
Oh my God!
And
yeah, it was it was hooting and hollering.
Yeah, it was a real hootenanny of a volcano that destroyed Pompeii. So everybody check that out. Very wacky lava, very wacky deaths.
And it is so touching to have tried to see those people skedaddle out of that town before they were permanently caked in volcanic ash. Ethan, what would you like?
Wacky ash.
Really wacky, silly ash.
I mean, you can obviously, of course, find me living in Jimmy Chill's mentions, but I want to yield my time to you, Blake, because we did not talk about the Fly Eagles Fly at all. I'm depressed about my team and didn't want to talk about the Vikings at all. So, Blake, Daddy, let's hear it about your performance of your team and your new future possible franchise cornerstone.
And that was my hot take when Ethan and I were making the picks. I think the Eagles are going to be good this year. I mean, not like 10-7, but maybe 500, which is that's a really unwacky record in the NFC East.
I think they will have a straight-faced record of, I mean, they were 4-11 or whatever they were. They won 4 games. Oh, yeah, they were 4-11-1 last year. So, I mean, Hurts looked great. He made a lot of strides over the offseason. And during preseason, you don't get to see a mobile quarterback, everything that they can bring to the table in training camp because they don't rush, you know what I mean? Or they don't scramble. So, he looked this is an emotional roller coaster that will go week to week, but he looked really good. The defensive line looked as great as they were supposed to be. They're supposed to be a top defensive line. And Devontae Smith looked really smooth. And the running backs looked great. It was a really nice game. And a lot of the young players played really well. So, yeah, Jalen looked great. And he's a really fun player to cheer for, too.
I'd also like to yield my time to tell everybody to go check out the Philadelphia Eagles hype video, which our boy Baby Blake, who's now working with the organization, helped with. It's fantastic, Blake.
Thank
you. We're really proud of you.
Thank you, sweetie. Yeah, no, your support is it makes me go toodaloo to all the haters is how I feel about it. It's not silly, it's not wacky.
Fellas, hey, I'm back, and if anybody asks, I've been on this show for the last 30 minutes, and I've been doing it from my brother's house, okay? His name is Richard, Richard. I've been at his house the entire time on your guys' podcast. I have not
Is he
been in
watching?
the-
Is he watching a wrestling competition?
Hey, just
Manitowoc County.
because Steve Avery's nephew and my brother are both dealing with deficits doesn't mean that every relative of everyone in the state of Wisconsin is. It was very correct in this specific instance. But anyways,
this is Barb
I just-
again.
it
Keith,
ain't
why
Barb.
are there bones in our trash can outside that's been burned out? Why are there burnt out bones out there? What have you been doing? You've been feeding the dog weird
Well,
stuff.
this bit has gotten out of control, Barb, and I
Huh?
don't know how to tell you this, but those are your bones. You're a ghost.
I've been killed. I've been.
Yeah. Barb, you stumbled onto your own bones, and this show has jumped the shark. Sports.